We'll also see the inauguration of Cyril Ramaphosa as President of South Africa. May the 25th, 1963 is when the Organisation of African Unity was established, the forerunner to the African Union. Our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, is here now to discuss the importance of Africa Day. Sophie, good evening. Thanks for coming in.
Good evening, Stephen.
Firstly, where did the idea come from?
Well, you know that under colonial rule, African leaders then saw it fit that they should find a way to work together to liberate the continent from the colonial oppression. And it is for that reason there was a gathering in Addis Ababa on the 25th of May in 1963, where you had leaders such as Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, you had Julius Malema Nyerere, you also had people like Kwame Nkrumah, who spearheaded the unity of Africa. And you also had representatives from South Africa, the former liberation organizations who were there, and particularly the former president of the ANC, O.R. Tambo, was there, because there was a feeling that Africans must work together to fight colonialism.
Africa Day, it's not a public holiday here, but it's taken very seriously in many other countries. It's a public holiday in many other places.
Yes, let me make an example of Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, it's a public holiday because Zimbabweans believe that that was an important move by Africans to unite and to liberate the continent. It is for that reason they recognize Africa Day as a holiday. And I think there's a push to ensure that many more African countries are doing the same.
The sort of recent history around this is quite important, because you had the Organisation of African Unity, then everything changed here in South Africa, freedom finally came. And then after that, the African Union superseded the OAU, it took over. That seemed to really, in a way, play a role in putting the Africa Rising narrative, that agenda, much further up the global agenda. Things seem to change there.
Yes, indeed. When we became free after 1994, there was a feeling that now the whole continent is now free, and therefore the mandate of the OAU couldn't be the same, and therefore you also have to change and rebrand the continental body. It was then now called, as it is now called, African Union, and the mandate had to do now with issues of uniting Africans at political level, but also at economical level. And it is for that reason you had NEPAD, and since then we have launched the Africa Free Trade Area, where you are hoping to open the market. And there's a belief that if Africans can work together, the continent will see prosperity.
There's a lot of talk about removing borders. Julius Malema was talking about it today. Yet I think most South Africans probably wouldn't necessarily agree that we should open our borders.
But the strange thing is there was fear that him saying that we must do away with borders, he is going to lose the votes, because people are not happy in terms of some of behaviors of certain, not all our fellow Africans in South Africa. But look, the party has been able to get better growth. That speaks to, you cannot fool people, and people are not fools. They can think, they can see through, you know, whatever you say, but also they can make a distinction in terms of at the end of the day, South Africans, they believe that they are Africans, and you can't take that away from them, irrespective of our color, creed, or political inclination. We are all Africans, and therefore the issue of bringing Africans together does resonate with many people. And therefore, even though some people can try to portray a call for African unity as something that's going to cause problems for us, you can't fool Africans. They're too smart.
One of the things that's really changed over the last 10, 15, 20 years is the rise of democracy in Africa. I mean, in Sudan, I think you and I were equally surprised in the newsroom that day when Omar al-Bashir was literally taken out of power.
Exactly.
Now we're going to have a transitional arrangement.
Well, Africans are saying nothing about us without us. And this new generation is saying that we cannot allow dictatorship to continue on the continent. You know, we don't have many coups anymore, but you still have challenges of dictators. And you know what they do? When there's a change of government, you see military making a move first and then taking over power. And when you have military in charge, generals in charge, you can't really say it's a civilian rule. And now Sudanese are saying nothing about us without us.
Sophie Mokoena, thanks very much indeed for coming in, our foreign editor here at the SABC. Coming up at 8 o'clock for Africa Month, we'll focus on xenophobia and how South Africa is dealing with the high number of asylum seekers in On the Record.